Hey, here's a shock for you. Kyle Busch's mouth gets him into trouble once again.
Oh, shut up.
For Tom Vandervoort, I'm Stephen Levine. Welcome to the Rowdy Studio, where Kyle Busch unleashed a profanity-laden outburst after
tirade.
the Dover
It was a
race.
tirade.
It was a tirade. It was vituperative.
Yes, it was.
This time, though, it was directed at TRD, Toyota Racing Development. TRD President Lee White had a conversation with Jim Utter of That'sRacing.com and told Jim, quote, "We're extremely disappointed in his negative comments and the tone of the comments after the event. It is under discussion as we move forward. We certainly are very disappointed," end quote. As well they should be, Tom.
Well, look, you don't want your driver expressing the notion that he's being undermined by the manufacturer. That's not a good situation. I have less of a problem with profanity-laden tirades over the radio because that's what you get when you scan drivers. They get frustrated by things. They get frustrated with other drivers. They get frustrated with calls that their crew chiefs make. They get frustrated with mistakes by their pit crew. So that's one thing. But when you have the feeling that the manufacturer isn't behind you, that's a problem that you have to deal with. And I think that's what Lee White is talking about. Let's deal with this notion that somehow Kyle Busch is being undermined by his equipment. Because as you pointed out to me, no one at Michael Waltrip Racing seems to feel that way. So I think that's an issue.
See, I interpret Lee White's comments a little differently. I think his comments, I read them as Kyle Busch needs to watch what he says and not unleash negative comments about his manufacturer, which to me is sort of the equivalent of unleashing negative comments about your sponsor. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. I don't think it's unreasonable to say to Kyle Busch, or to expect of Kyle Busch, to realize that the radio is a public airwave, and if he has negative comments he wants to make about TRD, to do it in the hauler instead of showing the public how the sausage is made. Well, there are certain conversations that are just better had internally.
Look, I agree with you, but I think the problem is less that he said it and more that he feels this way.
But it's Kyle Busch. It's everybody's fault but his own.
Well, look, everybody on the radio comes on and blames other drivers, blames their crew chiefs. We've heard it from a million guys. A million guys. I can't believe this is happening. I'm very frustrated. Said in a more colorful way, right? The problem is that when you go to that kind of explanation, where you're being undermined by your manufacturer, I think now you've got a situation where you're sowing the seeds of dissent. And that's what you have to address. Ideally, of course, you're not going to have, ideally, you wouldn't be cursing out your crew chief and calling him an idiot on the radio for all the world to hear. That's probably not great for team chemistry. It's probably not great. But I forgive that kind of thing because I know where it comes from. The problem is, where does this come from? And if it comes from a sense of mistrust and distrust with the manufacturer, I think you got a real problem.
Yeah, well, I think you have a problem, too. I think Kyle Busch's problem, in part, is that he's looking at Toyota instead of perhaps at the 18 team. Toyota did not tune that engine. Toyota did not make the choice to tune it for horsepower instead of fuel mileage. That was an internal strategy and an internal effort on the part of the 18 team. They could have tuned the engine differently. They made a choice. So why Kyle Busch is attacking Toyota? I don't know.
Because he's frustrated.
He is frustrated. Lee White also said he looks forward to taking it up with Coach Gibbs. So I'm sure we will have some movement, if not resolution, on this front in the not-too-distant future.
Absolutely.
For Tom Vandervoort, I'm Stephen Levine. Thanks for watching.